Hey everyone, Hixel Bay here. Thank you so much for stopping by. I've got a very special end of year video for all of you. 2023 has been a great year for the roguelike and roguelite game genre, so I decided to make a video of my favorite games I've played over the last year. Now, before we start, I wanted to give you a small disclaimer about what you're about to see in the video. So within this list of games, I've included any game that I've played in 2023, and that will include some games that are still in the demo phase. But since I played these demos in 2023, I've decided to put them in this list as well. But don't worry, most of the games that you're about to see in this list are fully released or released in early access. And for any games that are still in the demo phase, the demos are still available at the time of recording this. So if there's anything you like and you want to try out, then you'll be able to play it in some format. And if there's anything that you want to take a further or deeper look into, I'll include the links for every single game in the description for the Steam page, and also I'll include in the description links to the playlists where I'm playing those games if you want to see me play more of any games that you're seeing here. So with that, we'll start with some honorable mentions, and then we'll move into the top 7 games of the year for me. And if you're wondering why top 7 games, I wasn't able to narrow it down any further, like into a top 5 or something like that. And also 7 happens to be my favorite number anyways. So let's get started. Okay, we'll be moving through the honorable mentions in alphabetical order here. So the first one up is Asterogues. Asterogues is a dungeon crawler roguelite, which has you moving through a randomly generated map to defeat enemies, collect items, and also defeat bosses eventually. Now, this is a bullet hell game with a very interesting mechanic here, where your characters will be able to use the enemy's bullets against them, usually with the use of catching the bullets and tossing them back in some way. Now, they'll also be equipped with melee weapons or some type of melee attack, so this adds the dimension of either going melee versus range for your build. Do you want to use the enemy's bullets offensively, or do you just want to dodge out of the way to hit them with your melee weapon? So there is a lot of variety here that I really like. The game demo has showcased 2 very different characters. The first one being Pluto, which is a sword-wielding planet, and he'll spin around and catch enemy bullets in his orbit, and once you let go of the button while you're spinning, you'll shoot all those bullets in the direction that he's facing. Meanwhile, Void is a character where he will catch bullets in his hand, hold them, and on his next melee attack, he'll release those bullets in a spread. So just with these 2 characters that we see in the demo, I'm already seeing a lot of exciting features and mechanics that are included with each character, and that only gives me hope that the full version will have even more variety and other mechanics to explore. So that's really exciting for me, and the boss fights in this game are excellent. Now, I've only played the demo, so I've only seen the first boss, but the first boss is amazing, really great fight, really shows a lot of promise for the rest of the game. Now, the only reason why I haven't purchased this game yet is that it is a little bit on the pricier end for a roguelike or roguelite game. So I've been waiting for a great sale for it, and trust me, I have it on the wish list and I'm watching for the price to drop a little bit, but I will be adding this to my games library once I see it at a good price. The next game in the list is Crafty Survivors. In this game, you'll venture through different environments to collect materials so that you can upgrade your village. To help you get these materials, you'll play as one of many unique characters in the game's roster. Now, the characters in this game are definitely the highlight. Each character is carefully crafted and has their own set of skills that they can level up with, and the options you'll see in each run are different from character to character. And what I mean by that is the characters will not share any kind of skill upgrades at all. Every character has their own profession and they have their own move set. their own weapons, and you won't see anything shared between them, which is kind of crazy to think about for a roguelite game, but they've done it in this game. So each character has 15 to 20 unique upgrade options. Those skills can synergize and they can combine to evolve as well. So I really think that the characters and the skills for each character make this game really, really special. Now, this game is focused on the meta progression existing in upgrading your village for a stat boost and unlocking certain mechanics for your runs. So this game is quite grindy and will allow you to farm. So if you're into that type of thing, this game might be for you. Another thing that I love about this game is there's frequent updates to the game. So quality of life, hot fixes, and also character additions and new map additions, things like that. So there's a lot of content being added to this game frequently, and that's a really, really huge positive. The next game in the honorable mentions list is Cyclo Chambers. This is your typical roguelite game where you'll battle through waves of enemies and eventually make your way into boss fights. It includes a clean and fun design that I really like, and the gameplay is super, super smooth. Now, what I like most about this game is that it mirrors Binding of Isaac with the way that the item effects synergize with each other and how you can stack effects to get to that god mode, and there's several ways you can do that in this game. What they've really done right in this game is how they've built the bullet effects to stack on top of each other. With the right items, you can get to that coveted god mode in many different ways where you're just going to be an unstoppable killing machine. Now, this game does heavily rely on RNG, which isn't a bad thing. So there are randomized events between stages. So are you going to find the merchant pig? Are you going to see the mirror guy who will duplicate your items? Will you run into Santa who will give you random free items? But that makes the game even better because it really gives you that feeling of, okay, maybe I'll do one more run and I'll get the perfect set of events to help me get to that god mode type of thing. And along with that, there's also characters with unique traits. So there's a lot of different variety from that, and each of them have their own passives and base weapon for you to try out. So I played this game a lot and I really did enjoy playing through each of the characters and finishing all of the achievements. Next up, we have God of Weapons. And this is another game with that typical roguelite horde survivor type of format. You'll just be fighting through waves of enemies and try to reach the last wave to win that run. But the best thing about this game is that it has the Brotato roguelite formula in terms of the gameplay and how you move through waves. But between each wave, you'll have inventory management that you will see in games such as Backpack Hero or Backpack Battles. So a lot of shop management where you'll be purchasing items, re-rolling to try to get the right items and locking them in if you want to see them next wave, and anything that you're purchasing you have to arrange in your inventory space. And you'll also have leveling up, which will allow you to expand your backpack space, and you'll be twisting, turning, rearranging, that type of thing so that you can fit as many items as you can in that bag. And also each item will have its unique passive in terms of having benefits for just being in the bag, or maybe having some benefits for being beside certain things in the bag, that sort of thing that you'll see in these inventory management type of roguelites. Each character will have unique passives as well, so they will specialize with certain types of items or weapons, and that adds some variety to the game, of course. And I still haven't went through all of the different characters and all of their different aspects. So there's characters with different starting aspects as well. So there's a huge range of things that I still haven't seen. And just based on what I've seen so far from this game, if you are a gamer that is a completionist and you want to finish each character with each of their starting passives, you could definitely spend a lot of hours doing that. And that is one of the huge benefits of this game. There's a lot to see. And the last game on the honorable mentions list is Rabbit and Steel. So I've been recently getting into the true bullet hell game genre, and thankfully a lot of these games are including roguelite elements such as this one, so it's been a really great introduction into the genre. This one will have enemies that shoot a ton of bullets at you, which is pretty regular and normal, but it also has other interesting mechanics such as the enemies pushing and pulling you. They will also have you focus on staying in a very particular area so that you can dodge bullets, or also they'll lock you in and you'll have very limited movement as well. So there's some interesting mechanics that they have included in here to stay alive type of thing. And the game also features several different characters that have different attacks. They have their own special abilities, they have their own special defensive dodge ability, and this makes it very interesting to play from character to character. And the roguelite elements are random item rewards from chests, and also upgrades from the shops will be random as well. So your typical RNG is included in here. It will give you the chance to make synergies with enough luck, and again giving you that feeling of maybe next run I'll find the right things to win the game type of thing, which I really like. Alright, now that we're done with the honorable mentions list, we'll move on to our top 7 list, and this will be the best of the best games that I've played during this year. And typically that means that the game has a huge amount of replay value, or it's super fun to play for whatever reason, or there's something else that makes it really special and puts it on a different level on top of the rest of the roguelites that we've seen this year. So the first one on the list is Holo Cure Save the Fans, coming in at number 7. Now, Holo Cure is a horde survival bullet heaven roguelite game that is based off of the world of Hololive. If you're not familiar with Hololive, it is a VTuber community, and each of the characters in this game is based off of somebody that is a VTuber in that Hololive community. There's a huge amount of unique characters here. I think in the current version there's about 36 of them, and if you're familiar with Hololive, then you're going to love this game for sure, because there's a lot of references and a lot of lore that's included in the game that will make you smile and laugh, or whatever your reaction may be to that type of thing. But even if you're not familiar with that world of Hololive, you're still going to love this game, because there's a ton of variety in terms of weapons, characters, different mechanics to see, and things like that that make it really special. Now, each of the characters will have their own starting weapon that is unique to them. They'll also have a special attack or a ultimate attack that is unique to them. And during the run, you'll find that they have certain skills that serve as passive upgrades that are unique to them as well. So the unique elements of each character will really drive your choices in terms of which of the other passives and weapons that you're going to choose during the run will work well with them. And so there's a lot of experimenting and a lot of tinkering that's involved that I really like with this. And there's also additional mechanics such as the meta progression for each of the characters. There's also a sticker system that gives you even more passive upgrades, and also a food system that gives you more passive upgrades. There's just a lot included in this game to give you that customized feel for each run if you're looking to play around and see what works best. Another thing that I'm going to mention is that the music in this game is so good. Each of the background tracks is based off of a song or a music video that is created by one of the VTubers or several of the VTubers, but it's a video gamified version of that song, and I just think that the developer or whoever created the music has done such a good job. This whole package in this game is really fun to play, and I think it stands above the other games in the Horde Survivor Bullet Heaven type of genre because of everything that I mentioned so far, and also it is absolutely free to play. The developer is not charging any money to play this game, and they don't plan to, so it is completely free, which is a huge benefit. There's a ton of hours that you can put into this one, and with it being free, I just think that it's a no-brainer. You should definitely try this game if you're into Horde Survivor bullet heaven games. Alright, on to the next one here. This is a game that I've been playing a lot of lately, and it includes several elements that I'm hoping more games in the future in the roguelike genre will start to adapt. So coming in at number 6 is Picayune Dreams. Picayune Dreams is a very unique bullet heaven, bullet hell Horde Survivor game. I personally really like the aesthetic and the environment that they've created here, and the developers have put in a lot of great work into creating an immersive experience for this game. For example, the game takes place in space and you're playing as a cyborg type character, so half human, half machine type of thing. And as you can see on the screen, everything is really designed around that. So the experience that you're picking up from the defeated enemies are actually the damage numbers, so it feels like you're picking up information from the defeated enemies. And when you actually level up, the level up screen looks like you've opened up a screen on a old computer, and even the descriptions of your upgrades and weapons are written in this simplified computer programming language type of thing. Honestly, it's more complicated than it looks like. It actually is pretty easy to understand once you get into it. It's not as hard to understand as it looks type of thing. So I've really liked the immersive atmosphere that they've created here. Now the weapons and upgrades included in this game aren't revolutionary, but the design of them still contribute towards that post-apocalyptic dystopian type of atmosphere. So adding more towards that look and feel of the game, which I really do like. There is a skill tree that you can also use to further customize your character from the menu, but throughout the game you'll be picking up your typical weapons that you see in these type of horde survival games. So, you know, bullets or orbitals and status effects, that type of thing. One of the great elements in this game are the boss fights. So during your runs you'll encounter different bosses that have their own attack patterns and their own little gimmicks and things like that. So you're going to spend some time learning attack patterns, dodging bullets, trying to focus on staying alive while also focusing on whittling down their health bar. And I've found it very satisfying to give these bosses many attempts before I'm able to actually defeat them, and it feels so great once you have a successful run and you've actually learned what the best approach for each boss is. Another thing worth mentioning is the amazing music that they have playing in the background of each of the stages here. I'm having trouble finding the words to describe the genre of music, but if I were to try my best, it's like glitchy UK garage or glitchy dark techno playing in the background, and I personally really enjoy it. I think it's some of the best game music that I have ever heard, and it only serves to add to the intensity and the pressure of the game. So I think it's such great music and it's super fitting. I've really enjoyed the music here. But what makes this game a top tier game for me is the creepy and twisted backstory that will slowly be revealed as you play through the game. So throughout the game, when you defeat bosses, what they'll drop are these memories. And after your run is completed, you'll be able to view a little bit of the story behind why we are existing in this post-apocalyptic world and what the story is behind the protagonist that you're playing as and why they're doing what they're doing, essentially. And I'm not going to reveal too much about it, but it is such a great experience, and really what this game is a piece of art presented as a game. So that is why I have it in my top tier list here. I really think that the backstory that you'll slowly uncover is something that makes this game extremely different from other games in the genre, and I really hope that we do start seeing this more often in the roguelike genre as well in the future. Now, the next game has not been released for early access or full release yet, but to give you an idea of why it deserves a spot in the top 7 here is that the demo that's available right now, I spent 200 hours playing this demo. So it definitely had to be in this list because I put a lot of hours into this particular game. So moving on to number 5 here, it is The Last Flame. The Last Flame is a strategic auto-battler roguelike game that focuses on hero collection, item collection, positioning of those heroes during fight, and your team composition. What makes this game very unique is the flame system, which replaces a health system. So you start off with a certain amount of flame, and that flame is used up in several different ways. If your heroes die during a battle, you'll lose some flame, but also the flame can be used to reroll item choices or also be used to take a chance at gaining additional benefits through events in the system. If you ever reach 0 flame, your run is over. But just as a note, if you have a fight where your full team dies, you do lose flame, but if you have any flame left after the fight, you can actually wipe through a fight and still survive and move on in your run. So it's really interesting in that aspect. In this game, there is a trophy leveling system as well. So after each fight, you'll gain a certain amount of trophies which you can give to your heroes, and with enough trophies, they'll level up. So with each level up, you will either choose a stat upgrade for that hero, or you can choose a passive upgrade at certain levels as well. So there's even more strategy given to you based on the trophy system. Now, like I mentioned before, this game is in its early stages, but even in its early stages, we're seeing a huge amount of content already. The list of heroes is already massive, and they all have their unique passives and skills that they start with. As well, there are items that you can pick up, so different pieces of armor or weapons. There's also this recipe system where you'll pick up recipes and you'll attach them to the weapons, further customizing those weapons that you're equipping to your heroes during your run. Also, there is a list of relics that you can be picking up throughout the game. The relics are passive effects that you will have for the whole team throughout your fights, and there's a huge list of those already to further customize each run. So between all of the options and choices that you have for heroes, items, and relics, it really does give you a huge amount of replay value, and that's what makes this such a good roguelike game. And I have spent a lot of time trying to understand the basics, which are actually quite simple to its core. It's just based on positioning your heroes in the right spots during battle. So you want to put your tanks closer to the enemies and keep your damage dealers away from damage type of thing. But it's very hard to master, and that's why there's so many hours for myself in the demo already. I've been doing my best to master this game because there are different difficulty levels offered, and I've just been working my way through mastery of this game. Alright, now on to our next one. This one is one of the more popular games of the year, so it might not be a surprise to many of you to see it on the list, but coming in at number 4 is Crab Champions. Crab Champions is a third-person shoot-'em-up roguelike game that offers a huge list of weapons, all of which really vary the gameplay that you're about to experience. I was actually really surprised at the number of weapons offered in this game and how different they actually are. And each of them are carefully designed to not be overpowered over another. So I really like the balancing in this game and what they have to offer in terms of the starting weapons. The game also has been receiving updates periodically throughout the year as well. And the last update added 2 new weapons, which makes me really hopeful that there are going to be updates in the future for even more weapons and maybe even more upgrade choices and things like that. So that's something that I'm excited for, and I'm hoping that they actually do continue to update this game. Something that I really enjoy about the game is the level of high risk, high reward options. So what will happen throughout the game is you'll fight through waves of enemies and you'll choose which room to go in next, and it will tell you your reward choices. And a lot of the time they will offer you options to take on an additional challenge for the chance for an additional chest. And even within these chests, there's typically a lot of items that will give you kind of a benefit for a slight decrease in stat in some type of way. And I really do like that there's that type of yin and yang type of deal with some of these items. There's also totems in the game where you can risk some of your resources to possibly get additional items. So again, giving you that high risk, high reward type of mechanic to spice up your run and see if you can get lucky so that you can get that step ahead of the next wave. I personally like these games where RNG plays a big part in your run. So are you going to get lucky enough to find that perfect item to really get you further into the game? But also this game is super balanced in a way where if you're skillful enough, even with terrible items, you can still make it through. But if you're lucky enough, you can probably get by a little bit easier. And this game really has a lot of options to reach that God mode status. There's just so many combinations and so many ways that you can take your build. But in this game, with enough skill and a little bit of planning and a little bit of luck, you'll be able to reach that God mode eventually and absolutely just melt through the bosses, which feels so good every single time. And this game has a lot of replay value because of that. I have found myself coming back to this game and it has a huge amount of replay value, and I've really enjoyed it every single time I've come back. All right, we're getting pretty close to the top here. Let's move on to our next one. This is a game that I've been following for a long time, and when it finally came out in the fall, I was super excited, and it totally delivered. Coming in at number 3 is Magiccraft. Magiccraft is a dungeon crawling game where you'll play as a magician who needs to craft their own sequence of how they cast their spells. Basically what you'll do in this game is move through rooms where you'll collect rewards, and some of those rewards will be spells. With these spells, you'll put them into your wand and decide what sequence of those spells will be cast, and also add enhancements to those spells to make them stronger or give them different effects. This spellcrafting system is what I really like about this game. The game is actually quite stingy with its resources at the beginning, which actually isn't a bad thing because it's forced me to become resourceful at the beginning of the game, and I've experimented and tinkered a lot with different combinations of spells because of this, and I've found a lot of really cool and wacky combinations throughout my experience. Not only is your power determined by the spells that you have in your wand, but the wands themselves have passives that add even more dimension and build customization to your game. You can actually even have multiple wands at the same time so that you can switch in between them, but you can actually build your wands in a way that it will auto cast the spells themselves, which is a possibility in this game, by the way. So between the choices for the spells and also the choices for the wands, there's a huge amount of variety for how you can build your character in each run. There's also relics that are quite powerful in this game and very impactful, and there's a large variety of those as well. I have found in many situations that even the smallest change to my spell sequence will totally change my damage output or change the way that my spells look like. The game is really able to surprise me with these stackable effects, so this is why this game has so much replay value and I keep coming back to it. And once you make it far enough into your run, you'll get those opportunities to further refine your build, such as this shop where you can try to re-roll and try to find that perfect item that will take your build to the next level. And there's also a forge room where you can re-roll current spells in your inventory for some cash. And if you have multiple of the same spell, you can merge them into a more powerful version of that spell as well. So throughout your run, you can start relying less on RNG and plan out how you want your build to eventually look at and move towards getting powerful versions of whichever spells make your build work the way it does. Another thing that makes this game really excellent is that it will reward you for good performance and gameplay. Similar to Binding of Isaac, it will present to you high risk, high reward type of rooms if you can get there. Most of the time in this game, it is for flawless boss fights. So these type of mechanics really make it an excellent game, and it will have you coming back so that you can try to master the game so that you can find those really cool items that you'll only get if you're playing well. No matter how much I play this game, I always feel like there's something I haven't tried and seen yet. So that is why I'll always come back to this game and keep playing around, because there's so many wacky, cool, wild combinations, and I'm sure I haven't seen them all, and I'm not sure if I ever will. Alright, coming even closer to the top now, this is a game that I played a lot earlier in the year, and I'm hoping that it gets more updates in the future and it makes a big comeback, because I do want to play it again. But coming in at number 2 is Bioprototype. Bioprototype is a bullet heaven horde survivor roguelike, and what it lacks in visual game design and presentation, it makes up for it with its depth in customization and upgrade mechanics. In this game, you'll be fighting through waves of enemies and collecting cells. With these cells, you'll be able to purchase new organs to attach to your prototype, or you can use the cells to purchase passive stat upgrades. This game does not have you picking up experience points for leveling up. Instead, it's based on that organ system or your passive stat upgrades. In this game, there are 2 types of organs that you'll need to collect. The first one is a connector organ, which will determine how or when your character will attack. And the second organ type will be the actual attack organ, which will determine how your attacks look like or what kind of damage they do. I don't want to go too far in depth into the different organ types offered and the possibilities, because there are so many different options, but essentially you'll want to find the right organs for your character so that you can create a sequence of attacks that chain together and endlessly will trigger off of one another. So basically, based on the organs that you find, you could be spitting out attacks based on how far you're walking, or how often you're hitting your enemies, or if your enemies are poisoned or debuffed in some way. There's lots of different ways to build your character to chain those attacks together. Again, just based on everything that you're building into that brain using your organs. I have personally spent a lot of time playing around with different combinations for organs, and you can really get some crazy effects. And I really like that about this game. If you're someone who likes to tinker around and experiment and see the effects visually through your attacks, then this game is probably for you. And also, the game has a wide cast of characters that work better with different organ types and organ combinations, so the game will force you to experiment as well through that avenue. So I really enjoyed that throughout the game as well. Now, I know it sounds super complicated, but I promise you it's not as difficult to play as it may seem. I'm probably doing a really bad describing how the game works, but there's also a lot of features in the game to help beginners. So it's a quality of life feature, I'll call it. Essentially, if you're building your brain, what will happen is the game will highlight valid organs you can connect to any part of your brain. So if you are new to the game, it will actually make suggestions as to how you can build your brain as well in that way. And for the more advanced players, there's also some features to help you further yourself in the game and get that perfect build. One of the features I really like is that if you highlight a specific organ in your brain, it will show you the damage output in the last wave for that organ. So you can take a look at your current build and see what you need to replace and try to min-max your build here. And also the game will allow you to have up to 4 brains on most characters. So the possibilities and reaching that God mode status is something that can be done in different ways. And I really, really like it because of the wide range of possibilities through that. The best part of this game, honestly, is walking into a wave and absolutely crushing everything in your path, because once you spend the time learning the game and once you spend the time actually perfecting a build, it is so much more satisfying to see that you are melting bosses and enemies because you put so much time and care into crafting your attack sequence and everything that's happening with your character. And I have found that extremely, extremely satisfying, and I keep coming back because of that. All right, we're finally at the top of the list here. I hope you guys are ready to hear my favorite game of the year. This one I can't stop playing, and I just love everything about it. The way that the battle works, the mechanics behind building the character. All right, we've made it to the top. All right, we've made it to the top here. I hope you're ready to hear about my favorite game that I've played this year. I love everything about this game, from the battle mechanics to how you build your character and the item choices. So the game that I feel is the best of the year, #1 spot, is Spelldisk. Spelldisk is a dungeon crawling roguelike game where you'll choose a starting melee weapon and you'll clear rooms of enemies. The enemies will drop gems, and after each room clear, you'll use those gems to buy discs, spells, and artifacts. The disc item type in this game is what makes it unique. These discs will have specific unique requirements for generating mana for your next spell cast. Some examples of these requirements on the discs are: generate mana when you defeat a certain amount of enemies, generate mana when you walk a specific amount of distance, when you hit enemies with a specific element type. Those type of things are the types of requirements that you'll find in these discs, and there's a wide variety of them. Attached to these discs are spells. So the spells are self-explanatory. They're basically the attacks that you will cast, and they come in different elements and all different shapes and sizes. Basically, throughout the game, what you want to do is create an engine for how your spells chain together. So for example, if you want to be a fire mage, then if you find a bunch of discs that require you to do fire damage or afflict the burn status, that type of thing, then you can really focus on that. And if you find the right items, your spells will continuously chain off each other, and that's how you become stronger throughout your run. The spellcasting system in this game is something that I really find is unique. I haven't seen anything quite like it in another roguelike game, and I know I've said it a lot in this video about other games, but the amount of experimentation and tinkering that is required to play the game is something that keeps me coming back. In my opinion, Spelldisk has struck the perfect balance for complexity and ease of use for the player for their spellcasting system, and that is why I've put it in front of all the rest of the games that involve tinkering and experimentation for building your attack or spellcasting system. What I like about this game is it will give you tons of opportunities to choose new items and rethink or refactor how you're building your character in your current run. So if you don't like what you're currently doing or it's not working out for you, then there's probably a point in the game where you can change things up and get to that coveted God mode somehow by either re-rolling some of your items, purchasing new ones, or just rearranging them so that it works out a little bit better for you. To help you with your build, the game offers some really nice statistics reporting. So if you open up your menu and hover over any of your spells or discs, it will tell you how often the disc is triggering your spell, and also it will tell you how much damage your spells are doing. So if there's something that's underperforming, then you can tell right away that you need to replace that particular part. For me, this game has a huge amount of replay value, and I don't know what it is about the game, but every single time I do a new run, I feel like I was even stronger than the last, and I'm getting a lot of satisfaction from playing through and just trying out new builds or seeing what happens each run type of thing. So I really encourage you to try this game. I promise that it is not as difficult as it may seem. The learning curve is there, but once you get through that first initial hump, you're going to love it, I promise you. And if you're still not convinced that this game is going to be right for you because it might be too complicated, one thing that I'll let you know is the game actually has a survivor mode. So this survivor mode is more of your traditional horde survivor layout where they're just going to plot you on a large field with a bunch of different enemies. And in this version, you will collect gems to level up instead of using gems to purchase things. And when you level up, again, you'll step into choosing a disc, artifact, or a spell. And the spell sequence system is the same, but you just won't have to go through the dungeon. So it's a more fast-paced version of the game, and it will require you to do less planning in some ways because you don't have to save up your cash. You'll just keep leveling up. So for those of you that might be a little bit hesitant to try it because of the dungeon mode and the complexities there, maybe this version of the game will be right for you. The last thing that I'll mention about this game that makes it so good is that the developers have been consistently adding new content to the game since its release. So we can really have faith that this game will be even larger and have even more content in the near future, and I'm so excited for all of it. All right, everybody, that is the list for the year. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you got something out of it. Is there something I missed here? Is there something that you don't agree with? What do you agree with? What do you totally resonate with? Let me know in the comments. And as a reminder, if you're looking to look into any of the games further before you buy it or try it, I'll leave some links in the description, so you'll find links for each game in terms of the playlist of me playing it on my channel. And also, if you're ready to pull the trigger, then you can go ahead and visit the Steam store page through the links in the description as well. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it here. Leave a like if you did. And if you want to support the channel, remember to subscribe and share the video with your friends. 2023 has been such a great year. Thank you so much for joining me in my journey this year. And I will have more for you in the new year for sure. So have a safe and happy holiday. And yeah, I'll see you guys around. Later!